Today we have a very recent report of medbed use, and it occurred on planet Earth, which is very promising. This is a very important video because it describes an additional report of what to expect when you enter a medbed. In the past, I have covered the secret space soldier known only as JP. I was fortunate enough to meet this amazing soul in Colorado in September. I'll link the video at the end and in the description. On August 30th, 2024, JP officially became retired from the United States Army, though he would still consider missions within the secret space program. On Thursday, October 10th, 2024, JP was told to show up at the base in the morning, but he wasn't told why. He went to Fort Carson, which is a U.S. Army installation located just south of Colorado Springs, Colorado, next to Cheyenne Mountain. He said that initially there was a problem at the gate, but apparently he got into the base and just inside was a black car waiting for him. The guy waved. JP said he pulled up next to him and the guy said, "Follow me," which he did. They went into a part of the base that JP had never been. He said that there was a square, brownish, rusted building about 50 yards long and about 3 stories tall, and they parked there. Before going into the building, the man asked JP for his ID and was asking him a lot of questions as JP walked behind him into the building. When they got into the building, they were met by 2 guards that were not very friendly. They took his ID and asked JP for his keys, and one of the guards took his keys and went outside, presumably to search or move his car. The security was much like going through airport security, only in addition to removing his shoes, he had to remove his shirt. He was then ushered through double doors where 6 more soldiers were waiting, but they were standing around just like him and nobody was asking any questions or talking except JP. He said that he asked the guy in front of him if he knew why they were there, and the guy turned his head, looked at JP, and turned back to the front without answering. I don't know about you, but I'd be pretty concerned at this point, but JP is used to such security measures on missions that he's been on, so he's not afraid to ask questions. So he asked a guard what was going on and was told to shut the F up. Then he said, "Don't worry, it's good for you." The soldiers were all given numbers just like at the VA, and JP waited his turn for about 40 minutes. The one thing that he noted was that none of the soldiers that had gone in had come back out. Finally, when his number came up, his name, birth date, and social security number were confirmed. JP mentioned that his birthday was April 20th, 1985, which would make him 39 years old. He's in excellent physical condition, but he's had many injuries over his years of service. After his identification was confirmed again, he received a stamp on his hand that had 3 stars with a triangle under them. JP was then met by a doctor dressed in all white. He had a mask and gloves on, but his body was very bony and thin. He spoke with a very low voice as he asked JP to accompany him to a room and wait while a blood sample and vital signs were taken. JP said that it looked like a regular hospital room, but that the building looked very ordinary on the outside and very clean and high-tech on the inside. A nurse came in and took a vial of blood and put it into a machine right there in the room. She came back several times repeating the same procedure of drawing and analyzing his blood. When the doctor came back, another vial was taken and JP told the doctor that he was feeling dizzy, but the doctor told him that he had to come with him now. JP said that he was so dizzy that he couldn't walk, so they put him in a wheelchair and took him to a room with about 15 med beds in it. JP described the beds as very beautiful with marble on the bottom. 2 of them were open. He believes that he then blacked out or something. I have heard of the ability to telepathically create a loss of consciousness in another before. JP said that he awoke and was laying in a tube-like medbed, but his body was frozen, unable to move anything but his eyes downward a bit. I have personally experienced this feeling, and the loss of control is very scary if you aren't ready for it. We know that the holographic beds project the healthy cells onto the areas of injury, and it only makes sense that the body would have to be absolutely still for such a projection to be precise onto the damaged cells. So be ready and don't be afraid. This temporary paralysis appears to be normal during healing. JP then said that when he opened his eyes, the bed and his body were vibrating. He felt like the bed was putting out some kind of frequency that was penetrating his body. One important thing to note is that JP said that the areas of his body with previous injuries were vibrating stronger than other areas, so he advised that anywhere in your body that has been injured vibrates more, and you can feel a heat in those particular areas. For JP, the areas of previous injury where he felt stronger vibrations and heat were in his chest, his lower back, his right knee, and the back of his head. Another experience you can expect is a humming sound while the machine is healing. Also, JP said that he felt as if his feet and hands had some sort of cable with electric pulses coming from them and into his hands and feet. He described this as more of a tickle or tingle coming up towards his legs and then up to his lower back and arms where he had damage. It sounds very much like visualization meditation. Elaborating on this cable, JP said that while these cables, for lack of a better word, were connected to him, he couldn't move his fingers, but he did have feeling in them as he felt the electricity coming into them. JP said that he remembers laying there and feeling pretty good. In fact, he said his body felt awesome. JP said that he then closed his eyes and rested, having no idea how long he was in the medbed, but that he knew it was a beautiful sensation. So, the tingling and humming we've heard before, the electric pulses and freezing of the body is something new being reported, but it makes absolute sense. Let me explain the electricity used here. It's the way that we can describe it to others, but it is not the electric energy source that we are used to. It is the vital energy of the universe. Some call it frill energy. Some call it chi or prana or mana or spirit, among many other things, but it is not electricity as we think of it. It is a bioelectricity. The heart, for example, operates through electrical impulses to regulate its beating. In this sense, life force could be thought of as a kind of electricity, in a very broad metaphorical sense, as it governs bodily functions and vitality. After an unknown amount of time, the capsule opened, and JP reported that he was able to move again. Let's look at his description of the medbed once again. JP said that it was like an oval or tube with a base that looked like marble and a glass top that was very thick and was perhaps crystal. But there is something very fascinating about the beds he described. Here's where it gets really wild, guys. When the top opened and JP went to stand up and get out, he put his hand on the edge of the medbed and his hand made an indentation in the bed. He described the medbed being made out of a gel-like substance, which makes me wonder if it was made of plasma. Others have described the medbed as liquid. JP further described a bottom to the bed that looked like marble but was squishy. Plasma is often referred to as the fourth state of matter, alongside solid, liquid, and gas. It is a state in which a gas has been energized to the point that some of its atoms or molecules lose electrons, resulting in a mixture of free electrons and ions or charged particles. This ionization gives plasma its unique properties. Holy cow, guys, plasma is energized, and JP described cables shooting electricity into his limb extremities. This is the first time I have heard this morphic capability of the medbeds. Let's look at the properties of plasma real quick and see how it can contribute to this redistribution of energy. Due to the presence of free electrons and ions, plasma is an excellent conductor of electricity. JP said that he believed the frequency ran better through the gel bed. Plasma is responsive to magnetic and electric fields. This means that plasma can be controlled or moved using magnetic and electric fields because its particles, electrons, and ions have electric charges. These charges within plasma interact with the fields, causing the plasma to respond, unlike solids, liquids, or gases. This means that the medbed itself is actually interacting as a separate consciousness with us. I discussed the off-world technologies used to build the motherships and arcs in another video. In a nutshell, these extraterrestrials have the ability to grow Earth arcs and motherships. They are grown in parts and assembled. The ships are alive and are considered part of the crew and vice versa. I will link this video. But my question is, are the medbeds made in the same organically or biologically grown technology? If so, we will be interacting with an external construct like we have never seen. JP said that he felt like he was in his 20s again when he got out. Before leaving, JP was again tested and put through an endurance test and found that his stamina was very high. They took more blood after the stress test and his oxygen levels were back to normal. I'm thinking that he had some sort of lung condition that obstructed airflow such as COPD. Who knows what he was exposed to either in the Army or the space program. While he didn't specifically say what his injuries were, he said that the areas of injury all felt great after his treatment, including his lungs. He said he could now breathe great. His knees weren't hurting and he was no longer suffering heart abnormalities. JP said that he still has a cough but that he felt like $1,000,000. JP doesn't know if there will be another medbed treatment, but he felt that the one treatment was enough. For the treatment that JP received, he was told that he couldn't take any blood thinners like aspirin, ibuprofen, or other non-steroidal or steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs for 3 weeks. He indicated that they were clear about not taking anything that thins the blood. I'm not sure if this is due to his heart condition or if it is standard post-op orders. It is interesting to note that with today's invasive surgeries, most people are prophylactically put on blood thinners to prevent clotting. There appears to be no need for clot prevention with the medbeds. This highlights the need to listen very carefully to aftercare instructions, which are likely to be very different from Western medicine. He was also told to exercise and they would do blood work again in 2 weeks, but we don't have a report on this yet. The strange skinny doctor didn't talk much, but JP is pretty inquisitive and he learned that the copious amount of blood that they took was to diagnose him. He also learned that the blood tests taken can identify abnormalities about 5 generations back. He also said that the medbeds can block damaged DNA from being passed to his future offspring. This gives much hope to those who have refrained from having children for fear of passing on genetic defects. JP mentioned that when he got out of the medbed, he saw that all of the medbed capsules were closed with soldiers in them. For years, we have been hearing that the veterans will be going first. While JP was an Army vet, he also served in the secret space program. In any event, it appears the medbeds are being rolled out for certain veterans. We also heard from Melanie Karras that the abused children have been receiving treatment already. I'll link this video also. This appointment was in October, before Trump was elected president. While JP refused to reveal any political affiliation, after his treatment, he stated that he felt that the medbeds are going to be rolled out, depending on what administration gets in. I think America made the right choice, guys. Until next time, I will leave you with JP's words. He said that he knows there are a lot of very sick people, but he wants them to not worry. Sooner or later, these medbeds will get out and people will get better.